So phase one includes a 6-week ceasefire and release of a number of hostages. Phase two would be a permanent ceasefire and the release of all living hostages and Israeli forces withdrawn from Gaza. And phase three is a reconstruction plan for Gaza. So do you think both sides will accept this plan?
It's a little odd, frankly, just on the surface of it, because we've had Israel on this methodical plan to go through Rafah. They've been resisting everyone's pressure to stop that, to take care of the civilian people in the area, et cetera. We have tanks rolling into the middle of Rafah, and all of a sudden the next day, on Friday afternoon, Biden announces this plan, which was odd because in the middle of the plan, he said this was the idea of the Israelis. Mm-hmm. So explaining that must be, they had buy-in, obviously, and then that the Hamas side has signaled a positive outcome to the idea, so there's room to go with that. But then you have Netanyahu today categorically saying we're not doing anything until all the hostages are released, until we have one, and then we'll talk about a ceasefire. Mm-hmm. So it seems still to be diametrically opposed to what Biden said. So I'm just not really sure what the foundation for this is.
But President Biden, he addressed possible critics of this deal yesterday. Let's just take a listen to that quick.
At this point, Hamas no longer is capable of carrying out another October 7th, which is one of the Israelis' main objectives in this war, and quite frankly, a righteous one. I know there are those in Israel who will not agree with this plan and will call for the war to continue indefinitely. Some are even in the government coalition.
What would you say to some in Israel who say this deal doesn't go far enough?
It's not that they say it doesn't go far enough, it's that they say it goes too far. They don't want to do anything at all until there is complete victory. And I'm sure that Biden is absolutely referring to Ben-Gvir and Smotrich on the right-hand side of the Israeli government, who are categorically opposed to any kind of a negotiated settlement. They just want a military victory, and they're adamantly opposed to any kind of a deal like this. So I also saw one of the other members of the government on the opposition side that said that, hey, maybe Ben-Gvir and Smotrich could resign, and maybe that would clear the path for this. So obviously some of the government do want it, but so far the guy at the top, Benjamin Netanyahu, doesn't seem to want it. So I'm not sure where this is going to go. And then the deal itself, listen, I've been arguing that this thing needs to be over a long time ago, and anything that's going to stop the killing immediately for the people of Palestine is a good step, and we should go down this path. But there is a long way to go to get into peace, and we'll see if they even take step one.
And the U.S. just invited Prime Minister Netanyahu to address Congress. Do you think that could be an opportunity to discuss with him more? Is that the idea of bringing him here to talk with him about the end to this war? And what could the impact of his address be?
Well, one would wonder and almost hope that they're trying to use that as leverage to say, hey, man, you're bleeding support in the West, which Biden, I think, also mentioned in that press conference there. And he said, this is a way to shore it back up. But hopefully we're saying it's a quid pro quo. You're going to have to give us something to get something of this nature, because I think it's a bit of a risk, because if Biden invites him or the U.S. Congress does, and he doesn't give Biden anything, and he still says, basically repudiates in public what Biden said, and then still also speaks and gets his platform, I think that it would make us look, well, really weak.
Do you think that this plan does enough to address the humanitarian crisis?
It's a good first step. I'm not going to say it's not a good one, because it's got to stop the killing, because one of the other things he specified in there was a large number of daily trucks going in to alleviate the hunger desperately needed. So I'm all for that, and I think it's a good step. The big problem with his plan is that it only goes to 3 phases, and it doesn't have a 4th phase, which is anything related to self-governance for the Palestinian people. And if you don't have that, if that's not even part of it, all you're basically saying is the Palestinian people can be fed and then go back to what some call an open-air prison in Gaza even after that. And I don't think that's going to be acceptable to them long term. But first things first, let's get the killing stopped.
Yeah, and you touched on it there, too. President Biden has called for a 2-state solution. There are other countries we've seen calling for a Palestinian state. So that's a whole other topic on top of this, in addition to, a ceasefire, a hostage deal, and then their, mission of defeating Hamas. Do you think Israel, Netanyahu, can reach that? Is that possible by the end of this year, or possible at all to defeat them completely?
No, it's not. It's not possible at all. I've literally been saying that since the opening round of this fight back in late October of last year. The path that Netanyahu has his country on to seek a political outcome of a military victory by destroying Hamas can't be accomplished, because by the method that he's choosing with this massive destruction of the entire civil population or the civil infrastructure of the city so that it can't even sustain life without 600 trucks coming in abroad every day, and so many tens of thousands of innocent people have been killed. He has basically just sowed the seeds of future unrest among the Palestinian people, because now the hatred of Israel is far more than it was on the 7th of October last year. And if you don't do anything at all to give those people some kind of reason to hope that they're going to have a two-state solution, then all you're doing is just waiting for the next explosion to come up. And that's kind of where we are right now.
Absolutely. It could create a cycle in the next generation. And it's just all of these topics.
Something has to be done to change the dynamics, or you're just going to get the cycle unbroken.